everyone. Welcome to another episode of A Long Random Walk. I'm little storyteller Lee, your fellow traveler on the twists and turns of the career jungle gym. I discuss economic issues that influence employment and careers to help you keep up with market trends within your busy working lives. Over the past 2 months, dialogue about the impact of AI on white-collar workers has intensified. Last May, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei warned the world that AI could eliminate half of entry-level white-collar jobs and drive up to 20% unemployment in the US in a 1 to 5 year time frame. 3/4 of a year later, Amodei reiterated elements of his message about AI impacting human employment and purpose in his January 2026 essay, The Adolescence of Technology, and at the India AI Impact Summit in March. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has made similar points with less tact. In February, at the same India AI Summit as Amodei had attended, he compared the energy consumption in data centers with the amount of energy consumed in training a human. And as you can imagine, that did not go down well at all. And just this month, OpenAI published a paper advocating for policy change to address AI-driven job disruption and economic inequality. One thing we need to remember before we swallow all this hype wholesale and decide that white-collar employment is completely over is that these pronouncements are being made by two people amongst the group who stand the most to gain from the belief of all-powerful AI. Their stock price depends upon people believing that AI will take over much of human activities within a not-so-long period in the future. Of course, recent high-profile retrenchment announcements have also shaken up the white-collar population and driven tech stock prices up, even as their full impact on the workforce has yet to really be known or realized. Block, an ambitious contender in the fintech space, fired the first big salvo by retrenching 40% of its employees at the end of February and got rewarded by a 20% jump in their stock price in the aftermath of that announcement. Within a matter of weeks, Meta and Oracle followed on by announcing reductions in force. The sweeping numbers that made the headlines, though, have yet to be confirmed by actual numbers on the ground from official sources. They came from third-party projections. How do stats stack up with hype? That's what this episode of A Long Random Walk seeks to investigate. My first stop in validating how the numbers check out against the hype was layoffs.fyi, a site built and maintained by a developer named Roger Lee. Right on the site, you can pull quick insights and breakdowns covering more than 5 years' worth of tech layoffs. Based on the numbers I pulled from this site, I established that between 2021 and 2025, the year with the most tech layoffs was 2023, where 264,000 people were retrenched across nearly 1,200 companies. In 2024 and 2025, the numbers were 153,000 and 124,000 layoffs respectively, which means that while ChatGPT and other similar generative AI products were growing during that time, they weren't, at least at that stage of their development, creating a disproportionate impact on employment figures. This year, 2026, has more than 70,000 layoffs after just over a quarter. But bear in mind that this includes a figure of 30,000 layoffs attributed to Oracle, which is an estimate from investment bank TD Cowen, rather than an officially announced figure. Layoffs.fyi is the first site that AI chatbots send you to when you ask them about retrenchment statistics. But I was pretty sure that since it skews towards tech layoffs, it's likely to have two biases. Firstly, the data would be weighted towards the infocom sector against others, and also it might lean towards US companies. Therefore, I went through Kaggle's website to see if there were any other sources of global layoffs data. For those of you who are new to data analysis, Kaggle is a website where members of the data community can upload public data sets, share samples of their analytical work, and take part in data science and machine learning virtual challenges and competitions. One of the Kaggle datasets pulled numbers from peerlist.io. So I checked out that website and found that their total layoff numbers were 199,000 in 2024 and 189,000 in 2025, with some examples from outside the US. I think it's wise to take both datasets as approximations rather than exact truths, but this tells us that the totals might be bigger than what these tech industry-focused sites have captured. As a further sense check, I asked Manus to search the web for layoff announcements in any language, any industry, and to pull the numbers where these were mentioned in the press articles. My prompt is in the description box so that you can replicate what I did if you're interested. What did I find? Manus pulled 277,000 layoffs for the last 12 months from 1st April 2025 to 31st March 2026, as opposed to 165,000 from layoffs.fyi. So we can tell that the tech industry isn't the only source of layoffs, but it accounted for about 60% of the total. I know that Manu's data isn't complete either, as that poll captured the 16,000 retrenchments from Amazon this January, but missed the 14,000 from last October. They also included the 30,000 Oracle layoffs as if this number was confirmed instead of an estimate. But directionally, all sources point towards the same conclusion. Total layoff volume is picking up in 2026. If we multiply the year-to-date estimated figures by 4 to straight line project for all 4 quarters, we get around 280,000 projected layoffs in 2026 from layoffs.fyi's data and 480,000 from Manu's data. For the 3 sources, if layoffs proceed at the same rate as announced in Q1 of this year, which is a very broad estimate, I don't think that's a certainty at all, we will get between 1.75 to 2.25 times the amount of job losses this year versus last year. We have so many numbers floating around. How do we use these figures to determine if we are facing a massive white-collar jobs apocalypse? First of all, I looked at how much of the totals were covered by infotech industry-centric sources. On average, layoffs.fyi covered about 55 to 58% of the totals that Manus pulled for me, and peerlist.io covered 74 to 83% of the totals. Therefore, I think it's fair to say that the ICT industry accounts for 2/3 or more of the retrenchment volumes reported in the press. Then I asked Manus to check out what global employment totals look like and what percentage of total global employees come from infotech. Although the sources it came up with date back to 2024, so those are about 2 years old by now, definitely before the time when agentic AI scaled. But still, it gives us a ballpark to work with. So in 2024, according to the World Economic Forum, total global digital jobs numbered about 73 million, comprising 11 million low-wage, 23 million middle-wage, and 39 million high-wage jobs. So the current scale of documented layoffs from the tech sector amounts to less than 0.5% of the total global pool of digital workers. And according to the International Labour Organization, there were about 3.7 billion working population globally in 2024. That means the digital jobs globally are about 2% of the total number of employed workers. And if we zoom out and look at the world at large, ICT is a much bigger proportion of the total reported layoffs at 2/3 as opposed to 2% of global employment. So what are my takeaways from digging through all this data? Firstly, I believe that while the increase in layoffs is real, the focus is biased towards a specific segment of workers, employees of large firms, especially within the infotech sector. While that's unfortunate, it's not entirely unexpected given the rate at which new AI technology is being commercialized. This is a time when any firm whose business is in software or highly influenced by software technology, is facing high infrastructure costs and a lot of instability. But secondly, even if your current role isn't in the infocom sector, if you spend most of your day working with computers, it's worthwhile to investigate and experiment with using AI. You have a runway, as the stats have shown. And if, as is likely, the role that you play in creating value for your business or for the industry that you're in is more than just what you do on a computer, here's the time to crystallize, enhance, and communicate your value proposition. Next week, Along Random Walk will take a break since I'll be traveling on Monday. But I'll cross-post a short video from my Vibe Coding Fridays series on LinkedIn, which will discuss why I think my blog is outdated and what I want to do about it. Have a good week and see you next time. Bye-bye.